and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and today we're picking books that take place in the 1920s. We thought that was kind of an interesting decade, starting out with the Roaring Twenties and ending with the stock market crash in 1929. And it also was following in the wake of the Spanish flu pandemic, which killed millions, and the end of World War I. So it was an interesting mix of books to be able to pick for this decade. So Jill, what's your first pick from the 1920s?
My first one is Chicago, Wild Women and the Blues. This is a stirring and impeccably researched novel of jazz-aged Chicago in all its vibrant life. It follows two stories that intertwine 100 years apart with a chorus girl and a film student who are dealing with loss, forgiveness, and love. 1925 Chicago is the jazz capital of the world, and the Dreamland Cafe is the ritziest black and tan club in town. Honoree Delcourt is the sharecropper's daughter, willing to work hard and dance every night on her way to the top. Dreamland offers a path to the good life, socializing with celebrities like Louis Armstrong and filmmaker Oscar Micheaux, but Chicago is also awash in bootleg whiskey, gambling, and gangsters. And a young woman driven by ambition might risk more than she can stand to lose. And then it also has 2015 timeline with a film student, Sawyer Hayes. He arrives at the bedside of 110-year-old Honoree Delcourt, who's still alive. She made it through the 20s. Still reeling from devastating loss that has taken him right to the brink. Sawyer has rested all his hope on this frail but formidable woman, with the only living link to the legendary Oscar Micheaux. If he's right, if she can fill in the blanks of his research, perhaps he can complete his thesis and begin a new chapter in his life. But the links Honoree makes are not the ones he's expecting, so...
My first pick is Call Your Daughter Home by Deb Spira. This was published back in 2018, and it had a 4.24 rating on Goodreads. It was described as a stunning tour de force following three fierce, unforgettable Southern women in the years leading up to the Great Depression. It's 1924 South Carolina, and the region is still recovering from the infamous boll weevil infestation that devastated the land and the economy. Gertrude, a mother of four, must make an unconscionable decision to save her daughters from starvation or die at the hands of an abusive husband. Retta is navigating a harsh world as a first-generation freed slave, still employed by the Coles' influential plantation proprietors who once owned her family. Annie is the matriarch of the Coles family and must come to terms with the terrible truth that has ripped her family apart. These three women seemingly have nothing in common, yet as they unite to stand up to the terrible injustices that have long plagued their small town, they find strength in the bond that ties women together. Told in the pitch-perfect voices of Gertrude, Retta, and Annie, this book is an audacious, timeless story about the power of family, deep-buried secrets, and the ferocity of motherhood. So call your daughter home.
My next one is called Z, a novel by Zelda Fitzgerald. She did not write this. It was written by Therese Ann Fowler. This is a dazzling novel that captures all the romance, glamour, and tragedy of the first flapper, Zelda Fitzgerald. When the beautiful, reckless Southern belle Zelda Sayre meets F. Scott Fitzgerald at a country club dance in 1918, she is 17 years old and he is a young Army lieutenant stationed in Alabama. Before long, the ungettable Zelda has fallen for him despite his unsuitability. Scott isn't wealthy or prominent or even a Southerner and keeps insisting, absurdly, that his writing will bring him both fame and fortune. Her father is deeply unimpressed, but after Scott sells his first novel, This Side of Paradise, to Scribner's, Zelda is optimistically boards a train north to marry him in the vestry of St. Patrick's Cathedral and take the rest as it comes. So this is a little bit older. It was published in 2013, but I can't, the 20s, I have to have a Fitzgerald or a Hemingway or something.
Yeah, anybody who's fans of Gatsby or any of that. My second pick is In a Field of Blue by Gemma Liviero. This was published in 2020. It's England, 1922. It's been 4 years since Rudy's brother Edgar went missing in war-torn France. Still deep in mourning and grappling with unanswered questions, Rudy and his mother struggle to move on. With the enigmatic Mariette arrives unexpectedly at the family's manor, claiming to be Edgar's widow and the mother of his child, Rudy urges her to stay, hoping she'll shed light on all the missing pieces. Captivated by her, Rudy finds that their mutual loss and grief bind them, as does the possibility of a new love. But Mariette's revelations bring more questions than answers about Edgar's death. Suspicions threaten to divide Rudy's already fractured family, setting him on a quest for the truth that takes him from England to France and beyond. In his search, he's forced to confront the tragedies of war and the realities of the brother he's lost and the woman he's now found. Will the truth set him free to find peace, or will it forever shadow his future? So, In a Field of Blue.
This one kind of takes you through a lot of the 20s. This is Trust by Hernan Diaz. I've seen this on a lot of lists as one of the best. It was published in 2022. Even through the roar and effervescence of the 1920s, everyone in New York has heard of Benjamin and Helen Rask. He is a legendary Wall Street tycoon. She is a brilliant daughter of eccentric aristocrats. Together, they have risen to the very top of the world of seemingly endless wealth. But the secrets around their affluence and grandeur incite gossip. Rumors about Benjamin's financial maneuvers and Helen's reclusiveness start to spread, all as the decade of excess and speculation draws to an end. Trust is about money, particularly the flim-flam force of money in the stock market. The opening section is imagined as a novel within a novel entitled Bonds, a 1937 bestseller about a rise of a Wall Street tycoon named Benjamin Rask. Think of figures like J.P. Morgan and Charles Schwab, men whose DNA was made of ticker tape. Rask eventually marries an equally self-contained woman named Helen. Throughout the Roaring Twenties, Rask accrues wealth, and Helen finds her place as a patron of the arts. Then comes the crash of 1929. Because Rask profits from other speculators' losses, rumors circulate that he rigged the crash, and he and Helen are ostracized. The final chapters in this saga detail Helen's ordeal as a patient in a psychiatric institute in Switzerland, her mania and her eczema, described as mercilessly red flat monster gnawing on her skin, are reminiscent of the real-life torments of Zelda Fitzgerald. So it's circling back to my last book, but yeah, 1929 crash drama, so that should be fun.
My third pick goes along with the Roaring Twenties. This is a popular author. This is Beatrice Williams, and this is A Certain Age. She's the well-known author of 100 Summers, and she brings the Roaring Twenties brilliantly to life in this book. As the freedom of the Jazz Age transforms New York City, the iridescent Mrs. Teresa Marshall of Fifth Avenue and Southampton, Long Island, has done the unthinkable. She's fallen in love with her young paramour, Captain Octavian Rofrano, a handsome aviator and hero of the Great War. An intense and deeply honorable man, Octavian is devoted to the beautiful socialite of a certain age and wants to marry her. While times are changing and she does adore the boy, divorce for a woman of Teresa's wealth and social standing is out of the question, and there's no need. She has an understanding with Silvo, her generous and well-respected philanderer husband. But their relationship suddenly shifts when her bachelor brother Ox decides to tie the knot with the sweet younger daughter of a newly wealthy inventor. Engaging in a long-standing family tradition, Teresa enlists the boy to act as her brother's cavalier, presenting the family's diamond rose ring to Ox's intended Miss Sophie, and to check into the background of the little-known family. When Octavian meets Sophie, he falls under the spell of the pretty ingenue, even as he uncovers a shocking family secret. As the love triangle of Teresa, Octavian, and Sophie progresses, it transforms into a saga of divided loyalties, dangerous revelations, and surprising twists. Full of the glamour, wit, and delicious twists that are the hallmarks of Beatrice Williams' fiction, It's A Certain Age is a beguiling reinterpretation of Richard Strauss's comic opera Der Rosenkavalier, if I'm saying that correctly, set against the sweeping decadence of Gatsby's New York. So check out Beatrice Williams' A Certain Age.
I like the cover, too. She looks like 20s. So this is a popular mystery series that I picked the first one because it happens in the 20s. Jacqueline Winspear's Macy Dobbs. This is the first one. It was published in 2003. There's many, many, many of them. Macy Dobbs, psychologist and investigator, began her working life at the age of 13 as a servant in Belgravia Mansion, only to be discovered reading in the library by her employer, Lady Rowan Compton. Fearing dismissal, Maisie is shocked when she discovers that her thirst for education is to be supported by Lady Rowan and the family friend, Dr. Maurice Blanche. But the Great War intervenes in Maisie's plans, and soon after commencement of her studies at Girton College, Cambridge, Maisie enlists for nursing services overseas. Years later, in 1929, having apprenticed to the renowned Maurice Blanche, a man revered for his work at Scotland Yard, Macy sets up her own business. Her first assignment, a seemingly tedious inquiry involving a case of suspected infidelity, takes her not only on the trail of a killer, but back to the war she had tried so hard to forget. So, Macy Dobbs.
My fourth pick is The Paris Wife by Paula McLean. This was published back in 2011, so it goes back a few years. It's Chicago 1920. Hadley Richardson is a quiet 28-year-old who has all but given up on love and happiness until she meets Ernest Hemingway, and her life changes forever. Following a whirlwind courtship and wedding, the pair set sail for Paris, where they become the golden couple in a lively and volatile group, the fabled Lost Generation that includes Gertrude Stein, Ezra Pound, and F. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald. Though deeply in love, the Hemingways are ill-prepared for the hard-drinking and fast-living life of jazz-age Paris, which hardly values traditional notions of family and monogamy. Surrounded by beautiful women and competing egos, Ernest Hemingway struggles to find the voice that will earn him a place in history, pouring all the richness and intensity of his life with Hadley and their circle of friends into the novel that will become The Sun Also Rises. Hadley, meanwhile, strives to hold on to her sense of self as the demands of life with Ernest grow costly and her role as a wife, friend, and muse become more and more challenging. Despite their extraordinary bond, they eventually find themselves facing the ultimate crisis of their marriage, a deception that will lead to the unraveling of everything they've fought so hard for. It's a heartbreaking portrayal of love and torn loyalty. It is all the more poignant because we know that, in the end, Hemingway wrote that he would rather have died than fallen in love with anyone but Hadley. So check out The Paris Wife. I read this book years ago. I liked it.
I did too, and I loved it. I think I love that Paris with Hemingway.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, there's a scene in there where she loses his manuscript on the train.
Yeah, that was a good book.
Okay, so my next one is called The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont. The Christie Affair is a mystery centered around the sensational and scandalous chain of events that led to Agatha Christie's disappearance for 11 days in 1926. Told through the eyes of Agatha Christie's husband's mistress, a story of secrets, revenge, and lust emerges, resulting in a startling murder. The greatest mystery wasn't Agatha Christie's disappearance in those 11 famous days, but it's what she discovered. London, 1925, in a world of townhomes and tennis matches, socialites and shooting parties, Miss Nan O'Dea becomes Archie Christie's mistress, luring him away from his devoted and well-known wife, Agatha Christie. The question is why? Why destroy another woman's marriage? Why hatch a plot years in the making? And why murder? How was Nan O'Dea so intricately tied to those 11 mystery days that Agatha Christie went missing? So that's kind of interesting. And I thought if you're interested in the Agatha Christie mystery thing where she disappears for 11 days, there's also this book about it, The Mystery of Mrs. Christie, you know? It's kind of different. Like, where did she go?
My last pick is also one of our popular authors at the library. This is The House at Riverton by Kate Morton. This was published back in 2006. She is the author of The Forgotten Garden, among some of her other famous books. This book was described as perfect for fans of Downton Abbey. It's the story of an aristocratic family, a house, a mysterious death, and a way of life that vanished forever, told in flashback by a woman who witnessed it all and kept a secret for decades. So Grace Bradley went to work at Riverton House as a servant when she was just a girl before the First World War. For years her life was tied up with the Hartford family, most particularly the two daughters, Hannah and Emmeline. In the summer of 1924, at a glittering society party held at the house, a young poet shot himself. The only witnesses were Hannah and Emmeline, and only they and Grace know the truth. Now it's 1999, and Grace is 98 years old and living out her last days in a nursing home. She is visited by a young director who is making a film about the events of that summer. She takes Grace back to Riverton House and reawakens all her memories from 1924. So it's told in flashback, and it's the story of Grace's youth during the last days of Edwardian aristocratic privilege shattered by war. It's of the vibrant 20s and the changes she witnessed as an entire way of life vanished forever. The novel's full of secrets, some revealed, others hidden forever. It's kind of reminiscent of the romantic suspense of Daphne du Maurier. It is also a meditation on memory, the devastation of war, and a beautifully rendered window into a fascinating time in history. So it was described as a vivid page-turning novel of suspense and passion with a twist at the ending that readers won't soon forget.
Wow.
So this might grab your attention, The House at Riverton by Kate
She's a very
Morton.
good author, too.
She's popular here.
Well, we hope that if you're looking for something to read on the Roaring 20s, that this has helped you find something new to read.
Thank you for watching our videos. You can find us on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, which you get a link from our website. And until next time, we thank you for watching. Bye.